folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen. This week we are doing another movie review. This is Nightmare, aka Nightmares in a Damaged Brain, released in 1981, a huge year for the slasher film. And it was the age of the, Halloween knockoffs. And this film is no exception. There's a lot of similarities to Halloween in some ways. Like, the guy's an escaped mental patient out there on the loose, knocking off people one by one. This is kind of more like the grindhouse, sleazy, grimy version of Halloween. Just brutal. And I would consider this film kind of the definition of a video nasty, and it was one, actually. There was an era where, the UK, banned and persecuted films as video nasties, and this film was on that list. And the distributors of the film got in a lot of trouble because they released the film uncut when they were told that it was ordered that at least half a minute be trimmed from the film, but they released it in the original cut, and they got in big trouble. They got arrested, thrown in jail, so it's crazy, so the film was written and directed by Romano Scavolini, Italian horror director, and this does have some, Fulci-isms when it comes to the blood and the gore, for sure. I would say, if I was to compare it to any movie, I'd say Maniac. It feels a lot like Maniac, and it's got that dirty, grimy, gritty, sleazy, but at the same time, very effective. It really gets under your skin, like, say, Taxi Driver, because we see that sleazy, underground underbelly of New York City, and it's very effective in that way. And like Maniac, this film follows the killer around, and you kind of get inside his head, this lunatic out on the loose in society. So what happens in the film, this guy, George Tatum, who is our killer, has been committed to this psychiatric hospital where they have this new drug rehabilitation treatment. This miracle drug that's supposed to, basically cure the criminally insane. And this guy is in the mental hospital because he actually killed an entire family and also sexually assaulted them and mutilated them, So this guy is an absolute psychopath, And they're trying to rehabilitate him with this miracle drug, that they inject in him, and it's supposed to, calm his behavior and keep him in check. And he's considered a great success, and, they basically release him into society. They let this lunatic out on the streets of New York City, thinking that, he's completely rehabilitated, that there's no way he's going to kill again. And boy, are they wrong! So the first thing he does when he gets out, he goes to this, sleazy peep show in New York City, which back in that time, there was plenty of them. He goes into the strip show, where they close down the curtains, on you if you don't put in enough quarters, and the dude's trying to grab the girl, and God knows what his intentions are. And, then he goes into the booth where the girl on the other end is, doing stuff and talking to him on the phone, saying what she'd like him to do to her, and this triggers something in him. So he had a very traumatic event in his childhood, and we see a lot of flashbacks of that throughout the film, something involving his father and this woman I guess he was cheating on his wife with, and she's into some serious S&M stuff, and, you know, ties the dude up in the bed and smacks the crap out of him. The dude's bleeding, you know. So really sick stuff. And as a young kid, he catches them doing their thing, and it really traumatizes him. He even, apparently, you know, he sees visions of this woman getting her head chopped off and bleeding all over the place, and the dude getting axed, you know. So we see these horrible visions, and they cause him to have these seizures, you know, and he freaks out and screams his brains out, and, you know, he's foaming at the mouth and stuff, you know. So yeah, this drug is supposed to calm that, and what happens when he goes to the peep show in New York City, it kind of triggers it all over again, because it's this freaky S&M sexual stuff, you know, going on in his head, you know. And that just sets him off, boy, and he exhibits another killing spree, you know. And his mission is, because he has an ex-wife and he has children, and his mission is to get down to Florida and God knows what, you know, kill them all off, who knows, probably. And the funny thing about his kids is there's this one kid by the name of C.J., the little one, and he's really creepy too, you know. It's like, wow, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because he plays these weird pranks on his mother, pretends he got stabbed to death. He puts a bunch of ketchup all over his white t-shirt, and the mother freaks out and was about to send him to the hospital, you know, and he's just playing a joke. And he's also seeing his father out on the street, you know, super creepy dude with the long trench coat, you know. This guy is so creepy. He's played by Baird Stafford in the film, who does a great job, because you absolutely believe what this guy is capable of. You know, he plays the part very well. You're just gets under your skin, you know, and, you know, like I said, the movie follows around, and you get inside his head, so it's a very psychological mind F, you know. And along the way, you know, once he gets down to, like, say, South Carolina, his car breaks down, and he decides to, you know, he sees this young woman at the bar, and he decides to follow her home, and he brutally slashes her throat, and you see it in grisly detail, the blood splurting out everywhere. It's nasty. He continues to stab her to death, you know, and we see it in, like, slow motion. And the funny thing is, once he kills people, he is very reluctant about it. He's very traumatized by it. He's like, I'm sorry, and he freaks out, just like, you know, Joe Spinell in Maniac, you know, his character that was... So there is a somewhat of a bit of sympathetic traits to him, you know, because we know that he was traumatized in his childhood, so... I wouldn't say you feel as bad for him like you do Joe Spinell in Maniac, but you know what caused him to be this way. But doesn't stop him from killing people and brutally slashing them to death. At one point, he even kills a couple children. A young teenage girl brutally kills them. Those ones they kind of do kind of off-screen, because, you know, it's just too horrible to think, right? You're killing a young child, also a little boy who's best friends with the young boy C.J., his son. So once he gets down to Florida, he starts, you know, stalking the family, you know, stalking the son. And he even goes so far as to go inside the house and creep around the house and go through the wife's drawers and smelling her underwear and stuff. Like, God. He just kind of hides out in the closet and he's watching them. Man, this movie is seriously intense. You know, like I said, you know, it's very realistic. As far as the blood and gore goes, it is really brutal, but I would say by today's standards, not so much when you compare it to something like, say, Terrifier. I don't think it's as brutal and gory as Terrifier is, but I'd say it's a lot more effective, it's a lot more realistic, because this stuff can happen in real life, and it has many times, so it's believable. Even though some might say that this is vile, disgusting trash, that it's just a piece of garbage, it's just exploitation garbage, but it's effective, it works, it gets inside your head and it makes you, want to take a shower afterwards, it's very effective, it's very disturbing, and I think that kind of makes it a good movie. Is it a good movie? Or is it just vile trash? I'd say it's a good movie because it's effective, If you like this kind of thing, this kind of psychological horror, like this and Maniac and films like Pieces or, stuff like that, I think you would enjoy this movie. It's definitely a tough watch. Maybe you may not enjoy watching the film, but like I said, it gets inside your head. It's very effective, and it works. And yeah, it's a brutal, nasty, sleazy, grimy slasher film in the best sense of the word. I will say, once that incident from young George's childhood is finally revealed in full grisly detail at the end, oh man, it is absolutely brutal. I would say something like that would rival the Terrifier films, probably the one scene that does. But again, getting back to the similarities between this film and Halloween, once George does track down his family towards the end, and they have the big, final battle and the final act, we see him with the Halloween mask on and a knife. And, oh man, it just sends a cold chill down your spine. Just super, super creepy. If you love a brutal, nasty slasher film, then this is the film for you. It's Nightmare, released in 1981, directed by Romano Scavolini. And I do give it 2 thumbs up because of the realism, and the psychological aspects of it. And that's it for me, guys. Thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared. Good evening, folks, and we got some brand new merchandise for you over at www.thehorrorcona.com, and that's CONA.com. Representing the Horror Corner. Great new design. We got the Morbid Hour live stream there, you got the Horror Hangout live stream there, and you got my nemesis, the Dark Fate. So grab your t-shirt over at www.thehorrorcona.com. And we also got this beautiful new mug. Look at that. Very, very cool. Thought that came out really nice. So grab your merchandise today over at www.thehorrorcona.com.